Sir Francis Bacon was an amazing scholar. His 1620 book, Novum Organum, was an attempt to synthesize all knowledge. It was an incredible feat. Renowned Harvard biologist E.O. Wilson provided another stellar attempt with his 1998 book, Consilience. Among his many accomplishments, Bacon is known for his 4 idols of the mind. Collectively, Bacon calls the human errors of mental processing the idols of the mind. I've attached a relatively recent, straightforward description at GuyMcPherson.com, coincident with the release of this video. I will briefly summarize each of the 4 idols of the mind, with a focus on the second of the 4. Bacon's idol of the tribe makes the false assumption that our most basic sense of something is the correct one. Quote, "The human understanding is like a false mirror, which, receiving rays irregularly, distorts and discolors the nature of things by mingling its own nature with it." End quote. The idols of the cave, sometimes called the idols of the den, were the problems of individuals. Quote, "For everyone has a cave or a den of his own, which refracts and discolors the light of nature, owing either to his own proper and peculiar nature, or to his education and conversation with others, or to the reading of book, and the authority of those whom he esteems and admires, or to the differences of impressions, accordingly as they take place in a mind preoccupied and predisposed, or in a mind indifferent and settled." End quote. One common interpretation of the idol of the den is the prediction that a particular thing cannot happen because it has not happened. This is ridiculous, of course, and yet it is frequently launched in my direction. The specific example goes something like this, and it has appeared in several critiques of my work. Quote, "McPherson realized in 2002 that we were heading for our extinction by 2030. We have added 1 billion people to the planet since then, and there is no sign we will ever go extinct." End quote. In other words, it hasn't happened, so it cannot possibly happen. That's the idol of the den, the second of Francis Bacon's idols of the mind. The third idol, which Bacon called idols of the marketplace, is a problem of political discourse. Simply put, it echoes Plato in referring to the use of propaganda for argumentation. Bacon's fourth and final set of idols are those of the theater. Long-held wisdom, ancient systems of philosophy, and other tidbits are clutched as dogmatic, a practice that simply reiterates existing ideas. Bacon pointed out that truth must be reasoned from first principles, not from scholars placed on pedestals. Even with his rationalistic view of the world and a rigorous devotion to discovering the truth, Bacon realized that it would be impossible to communicate real truths about the world without the use of creative storytelling that engages the mind of a learner. E.O. Wilson summarizes the lasting importance of narrative. Quote, "Bacon realized that unless you used creative storytelling and engaged a learner's mind, it would be impossible to communicate real truths about the world. Bacon advised us to use aphorisms, illustrations, stories, fables, analogies, anything that conveys truth from the discoverer to his readers as clearly as a picture." End quote. Those who defame me are obviously aware of this approach. They employ aphorisms, illustrations, stories, fables, analogies, anything that conveys untruths from the lying writer or speaker to his audience. Storytelling runs both ways. A creative fable filled with colorful lies told often enough becomes believable to the masses. A key component of Bacon's idols of the mind is that of human progress. He assumes that the future will be better than the past. So does almost everyone participating in the monetary system that dominates the planet. The assumption of the future being better than the past underlies each version of civilization that has appeared during the last 5,000 years or so. Interestingly, this mentality of a better future was not how humans thought about themselves until about 5 millennia ago. Our brains rewired themselves in a way that we do not fully understand. One outcome of this rewiring was our belief that the future will be better than the past. We didn't hold that until about 5 millennia ago. Without this relatively new way of thinking, our monetary system would collapse very quickly. Most of us recognize the monetary system as a Ponzi scheme. After all, the currencies in use, including US dollars, are constantly devalued with the printing of more money. As financial pundit Gerald Celente says, quote, The dollar isn't worth the paper it's not printed on." End quote. We all participate in this system, even though most of us know it's dysfunctional. The obvious disparity in wealth is by design, and you and I were not allowed to participate in the development of this corrupt system. Banks do not hand out loans if they don't think you can pay them back. Adhering to the notion that the future will be better than today, the monetary future will always be better than the monetary past and the monetary now. As one result, banks give loans. If they didn't, few of us would have houses in which we live and claim to own.